Hello, and welcome to the Survival Guide. Today's topic we'll be focusing on is the digestive system. First of all, let's dig down into the oral cavity. The oral cavity, composed of teeth, tongue, and lips, helps us break down food using mechanical and chemical digestion. Chewing, also known as mastication, helps increase the surface area to volume ratio to allow more surface area for enzymatic digestion. Salivary glands, which are not marked on the slide, they produce saliva, which provides moisture to food and help with mechanical digestion. The salivary glands are activated by the parasympathetic nervous system. Chemical digestion occurs within the oral cavity, but this digestion is merely minimal. The tongue that is displayed here is actually helps with forming a mass of food, also called a bolus. And so what will happen is this food particle, the food particle here, will then be pushed back towards the pharynx by the muscular tongue. So then it will be able to be swallowed. So our food is now traveling down towards the back of the throat, towards the pharynx. So once the food enters the pharynx, the epiglottis folds down over the laryngeal and inlet. This basically prevents the person from choking. Then what ends up happening is our food enters the esophagus. The esophagus is a muscular tube that joins the pharynx to the stomach. So we were just in the pharynx and now we're going towards the stomach here. The top portion of the esophagus that we have noted right here is actually under voluntary control. That's why we can easily swallow without, we can swallow thinking about it. However, the bottom portion of the esophagus noted here is under involuntary control. And so what happens towards the bottom of the esophagus here, we will actually undergo contractions of the smooth muscle towards the stomach. So therefore, when you eat food, you will use voluntary control to swallow it. However, as the food propels its way down towards the stomach, we have involuntary muscular contractions. That's why you don't have to really think. You don't have to think at all, actually, when food is traveling down towards your stomach. Now, since we talked about the stomach so much, why don't we focus on this organ here, the stomach. The stomach is a muscular organ that digests food with hydrochloric acid and enzymes. Now, there is a lot that goes on with the stomach that is not covered in this particular series, but it's good to mention it here anyways. And then afterwards, we are gonna go into the small intestine. What I do not have mentioned here is we have a series of sphincters. However, the sphincters are not indicated on the slide, so we will not be covering them this series. But we will mention the next thing that's to come is the small intestine. So the small intestine is composed of three segments: the duodenum, jejunum, and the ileum. So if we want to mark what exactly we're looking at, so the duodenum is the part of the small intestine that attaches right directly from the stomach. And it's the first portion, it's just this portion of the small intestine. That is considered the duodenum. The jejunum is that middle portion here. And the ileum is the last segment of the small intestine. So, the function of the small intestine is responsible for chemical digestion and as well some absorption. And lastly, we'll be talking about the large intestine. The large intestine has 3 sections: the cecum, the colon, and the rectum. So the cecum is actually this part right here. The colon is everything else. It's this whole general tube. So what you have to note here is actually the large intestine. It is actually smaller length compared to the small intestine. However, the diameter of the large intestine is greater compared to the small intestine. Anyways, back to topic. So the larger tube is considered the colon. And then the last portion of the large intestine is the rectum. It's this area right here. And so getting back to the purpose of the large intestine, this organ's main function is for water absorption. For the rectum, this is a storage site for fecal matter to be stored. And then the anus, which is the opening where waste can be excreted. There is some things that we want to mention here. There are things called accessory organs, accessory organs. And we will not be going over the complete detail in this video, but perhaps I'll make a second video about it. So the accessory organs of the digestive system include the liver, which is this guy right here. It's a giant lobe that sits behind the stomach. We also have the gall bladder. The gallbladder is another accessory organ. Now, we won't be talking about its function in this video, but again, I could also do a video later on about it. And the last accessory organ, it's not drawn here, but it sits usually behind the stomach. It is the pancreas. So today we went over the digestive system. We talked about how food is transferred from first the oral cavity, making its way down through the pharynx, all the way through the esophagus, to the stomach, making its way through the small intestine, and then making its way through the large intestine. And then the last thing would be excretion of feces. So that's the digestive system, and I hope you liked it. Please like and subscribe for more.